Welcome to the DevReady Podcast. Today, I have Grant McCracken. Welcome, Grant.
Howdy. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me on today's episode. For those of you that are new here or don't know how I do this, I haven't really met Grant before. We've had a very small few-minute chat with some technical issues last week, so we're back on take two and having some other technical issues, but we'll work through that. So I don't know much about Grant and his background, but I'll let him take away and explain who he is and what he does.
Yeah, I don't know. I just clicked a link and now I'm here. So, so my name's Grant. I've been in cybersecurity for a little over 13 years at this point. Most of it in like application and information security. Spent a couple of years at WhiteHat Security and almost a decade at Bugcrowd, ultimately leading all their service delivery. And then last year, I started a company called DarkHorse Security, which is our goal is to provide accessible and affordable cybersecurity to small and medium-sized businesses, helping them become more secure. So that's kind of where we're at.
So what did you learn along the way through that experience you had at Bugcrowd and those previous companies to sort of get you out onto your own? Because that's a big leap to take.
Yeah. A lot. So I started at WhiteHat Security and I didn't have any security background. So the way I got into WhiteHat Security, a buddy was already working there, and he was like, "Oh, Grant, like you're technical. Like we built computers and we gamed and bypass proxies and stuff like that, and or use proxies to bypass like internet filters in high school and stuff like that." But so he told me to apply to WhiteHat, and at the time, WhiteHat was doing like this thing where they, it was a fantastic setup where they effectively were a farm, right? Where they bring in a lot of people that don't necessarily have a ton of applications or any security experience, but you have technical background and you're able to learn. And they basically trained all these people up to become security engineers. And so a lot of there's a bunch of us out in the world now. At Bugcrowd, again, there were a lot of different learnings, and I'm not sure how much of this you actually want to hear. I started as a triage engineer, but then I wanted to be customer facing. So then I got to, be customer facing and learn from a lot of great people that were sort of my mentors and leaders in the organization early on. And so then I eventually started managing teams, learned how to manage groups and different stuff, and keep picking up more and more teams. So I managed the support group. I created this role called the solutions architects that I built out and trained and developed, and they became some of the more prolific people within the organization, just going all throughout the company doing different things. I started a customer success group at some point. I took over triage and validation, started a pen testing and services group. I oversaw hacker success. So like there was just like a ton of different stuff. And that's not to speak of like, some of the bigger things that you learn in an organization growing from like A to E in terms of series A to Series E is just like navigating the political climate, as it were, right? A lot of people, it's not fun, but you got to learn how to get stuff done. And so just kind of how to be effective, how to manage, how to lead, how to build. Anyways, so like, I don't know if that's what you were asking for. Like there's a ton of stuff along the way.
Yeah, I think just in what you've listed there, you did a lot of things, a lot of initiative, setting up groups and those like teams to then try new initiatives and step out of what you were doing and test something new. So I can see that's where probably like the entrepreneurial part of you comes out. And then in doing that, I can now see how you made the transition to go out on your own, because you're already sort of pushing out and doing things on your own in those organizations, but then you're going to hit some wall or limitation, some red tape where they're not going to let you do what you actually want to do and get as far as you want to get to.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it, right? Yeah, and I mean the goal wasn't necessarily with DarkHorse to build something that's, I mean it is, but like the goal was to like make it more accessible and more affordable, like cybersecurity. And then a way to do that, or how I've gone about doing that, is eliminating all those different service layers. Because because I had all the different pieces as it relates to service delivery. So I knew, okay, this person costs this much money and they spend this much time to deliver this kind of engagement. And so I had all that built out. And so I could see where the inefficiencies were and where the opportunities are. And so that's kind of what I've done with DarkHorse is I've just gone through and I've said, okay, that can be automated, that can be automated, that can be automated. And I've just automated it all, put it in a platform and that's how it is.
Was it just sort of that, like, you can automate these processes and that was the spark that you said, all right, let's go out and do our own thing? Or was there something else that you were noticing, or like problems that were there in those organizations that wouldn't go away? And you're like, all right, I can do something about this, but they don't let me.
Yeah, so it was less that I felt like I just kind of run my course at Bugcrowd over the decade that I was there. So I didn't start with the intention to build DarkHorse. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I was going to kind of step away and try to figure out what's next. And so I kind of I was trying. I could open a coffee shop, a smoothie stand, and those are things that I want to do at some point in the future. For instance, why does everybody have to add sugar to smoothies? I don't understand. Like why, there's enough sugar in the fruit already. Anyway, so like that's my next venture is a smoothie stand. So I was like, okay, what do I want to do? And I was like, look, I've been doing this for a dozen years at that point. Right. So, let's go try to do something good. It's a little like borderline philanthropic, right? It's still technically a business, but like if somebody needs something for free, I'm happy to give it away for free. I've even got testers. So like if there's like a nonprofit or somebody like that, that's like, hey, we're super cash strapped. We've got like, 2 nickels in a piece of bubble gum. I'll be like, yeah, cool. We're good. Like I'll help you out. If you want to become more secure, we want to help you become more secure. And so we've got, in addition to myself, right, members of the crowd and things like that who said, look, I'm happy to provide services pro bono. So, the whole goal of DarkHorse is just to make organizations more secure.
Yep. And it's a noble thing and it's a very important thing to have in place. How are you managing that fine line then of running the business and making it something that you can live through versus just giving away everything? Because there's going to be a limit to how much you can do, obviously. But how are you managing that? Because that seems like it's going to be a bit tricky.
Yeah, I mean it's. I mean, again, there's a line to walk. I mean, I don't need a lot to live. I don't really live like a extravagant life. And so, I guess a big function of that is like, I don't really care if I'm not making a bunch of money, right? As long as it's enough to like pay the mortgage and buy groceries, then I'm doing okay, right?
Live comfortably and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
That's what you need to aim for.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a great kind of way to be, right? And I'm learning a ton along the way. So like, it's not like I'm just giving this away for free and I'm getting nothing in exchange. Like every group I get to work with, and every time I build a new feature, I get to learn how to do that.
Yeah, it probably opens up a lot more opportunities, a lot more experiences that if it was a business where you're trying to just try and find the highest margins and most profit possible, you wouldn't have those opportunities coming to you or opening themselves up to you for however they happen.
And it's also like completely on my terms also, like in terms of like, as soon as we're done here, I'm just going to go out and mountain bike for, a little bit. Right. So like, I'm not really beholden, I don't have to like make shareholders happy or a board happy or anything like that. And, again, it's just kind of living on my terms.
Yeah, having that flexibility is important. So you don't know much about myself either. So I started the business with my business partner. I was in my final year of uni, so 17 years ago in 2008.
Shit.
I'm the owner and founder, and the technical CTO, product architect. I'm the very technical one out of the both of us. But we have flexibility. I can have a chat to you like this, and if it goes over, it goes over. It's less, or rearrange and do things, and we can decide, all right, I can go for a walk after this or do whatever, but having that flexibility is key. But in line sort of like that, where you can offer something to someone for free, there's something I remember reading very early on in some how to manage projects or how to manage a business book that I read 17 years ago, which was I would rather work for free than at a discount, simply because the expectation of what people have of you when it's free versus a discount is very different. When you offer something at a discount, the expectation is still the same as if they're paying full price.
Yeah, no, that's
so they don't
great.
expect as much off you if it's free because they're more gracious that you're doing it for nothing.
Yeah. No, that's a great call out. And I mean, yeah, you definitely experience that because the people that you do it for free, right, they're happy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ones that are at a discount in the early days when we used to try and do discounts to try and get work because we were a very small business, didn't have many connections. Their expectations and requirements are exactly the same as a full price. So if you end up being a fixed price, some sort of development, as you know, you go into this sort of space, there's a lot of things you don't know at times. So then you end up being undercharging for what you're delivering. And then either they get resentful it's taking too long, or you get resentful that you're not earning as much as you should be or what it's actually worth. So then it causes other friction and problems there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So having your own terms and being able to control it is probably really important and allows you to do what you do in the way that you do it with the flexibility and having to say yes or no to a certain client or, yeah, we can offer that to you this time or whatever it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that nails it.
So what put the passion for sort of like security in you, or what drove that? Is it just because that's the experience you had in those jobs, or was it something from beforehand? You mentioned you tinkering around with computers beforehand like we all did and trying to break things. Is it just trying to understand how to break things and then that's what started it?
I mean, for DarkHorse specifically, it's just kind of where all of my experience is, right? If I'd had, 13 years in the smoothie business, I probably would have done the smoothie thing. So it's mostly that.
You must have had some sort of underlying, interest in the security space to get into that or take that step initially in one of those corporate sides.
Well, I mean, yes-ish, right? I mean, it's fun, right? So I really enjoy application security just at the level that you get dropped on a site and you just break stuff. You don't have to fix it. You just get to break stuff, right? And so anytime people were like, or I've talked to people in the past and they're curious about, being a hacker or something like that. I'm like, it's fantastic. You just get to run into the house with a sledgehammer, break whatever you can find. And then you're like, oh, there's a hole over here. You should fix that. And but you don't have to fix it. And so, I really enjoy that aspect of security. It's also just it's perfect for a mind that's curious, right? And my wife hates this and a bunch of other people hate it where if somebody starts talking about something, I'm like, why? How does that work? Break it down for me, explain it to me. And she's like, why don't you ever believe me? I'm like, oh, I believe you. I just want to understand how this works. Right. And so I want to, and so if you've got a curious mind and you're like, oh, what happens if we're doing the checkout and I change it to a negative number? Do I get money back? Right. How does the application respond to that? And so, I think hacking is just excellent for curious minds that just kind of want to understand how the world works. And again, you really get to understand a ton of stuff once you're back there. For me, it was illuminating when I got to see requests and responses. I was like, oh, what is this? This is actually how the internet works. And so that's a lot of fun. You're like, oh, okay. So I see all these, I see what it's actually sending and I see that you can manipulate it and let's see what happens. So yeah, absolutely. There is a little bit of native curiosity in terms of you don't just stay in security for 13 years because it's cool or just because it's something, right? Because I could have taken a bunch of different off ramps at any given time. I could have gone run customer success at I don't know, some CDN company or something. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of some other tech software, a dog walking, app or something. But
you need to have an interest in it to stay there and then try and start those new initiatives. And I completely understand sort of that curiosity aspect because that's how my brain works. As we're in meetings or I'm talking to people, my brain's trying to understand, all right, what have they said? Let's go and Google, research, understand. What can I do? How can I deliver it? I'm watching a TV show. I've never heard that before. Google as I'm watching it. And just trying to understand everything. the way I see it, it's the curiosity, but it's also the more knowledge you have, then the more dots you can connect together to present a solution, which is probably what you're doing in your space as well. You'll be like, all right, these things have failed in other sites. So when I go here, let's test this. But if I do this in this combination because something's new, something else may happen. Or especially like if you're looking at requests and responses, I don't know how many times I've like inspect elements on the page and go and change some numbers and see if that goes through. See if you can scam a discount out of something.
And you build systems too, right? Around I forget what you said in there, but like it triggered the idea in my head, of like it's like, oh, it's another one of those. And you build sort of different paradigms for like how the world works. And it's also just super empowering. If you understand like how an engine works or how like a bike works or how anything works, how plumbing works, you're like, oh, it's just like a pipe and it's gravity, right? And and so you're able to kind of figure things out from there. And so you just, I don't know. I love just taking things apart and not so much putting them back together, but like taking them apart and understanding how it works.
Yeah, I'm aligned with that, but I'm the developer, so I put things together and try and make things happen as much as I can break them generally. This
building DarkHorse has been fun for me because I've historically not sat on the development side of the house. So historically I was, just the breaker and you write scripts to like kind of help out with things here and there. But I'd never really, built things. And so it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun just sitting and like mapping out like modeling the data structures, right? Like, okay, like how are we going to account for this and how are we going to, and like, it's also a lot of fun. So I don't know, maybe I don't just like breaking things. I also like building things. It turns out.
Again, it's using those pieces, those paradigms that you understand to then solve a problem. You're solving a problem, whether it's what issues are there or how do I find problems in what I'm looking at versus I need to now deliver a solution, but it's still a problem that you're solving to be able to figure out how to deliver that. So with not being able to like in the tech space too much, and then what's happened over the last couple of years with AI, are you starting to use sort of some like AI tools in your development or within DarkHorse? Or are you seeing an upshift in securing against the AI use?
Both. So AI is absolutely right, because like the proliferation of AI created whole new vulnerability categories. For instance, like prompt injection, and so it's been a boon for security in the sense that everybody is throwing this like kind of it's kind of like I'm not going to say it's like the early days of the internet where everything was just like unencrypted and just crazy times. Like I can't believe I remember a time where like HTTPS wasn't like standard. Like I just can't believe that was the way the world worked for years. Anyways, so it's not quite that bad, but we've got a lot of AI that's just kind of been rushed to market. And so now people are trying to figure out how to secure it. So, one, seeing that a ton, in terms of everybody wants to know how to secure their AI. Two, people are using it in terms of development, myself included. It just makes things a lot faster. You use tools like Cursor or, I don't know what the other ones are in the space, but, also just like it, and I actually would be really curious to look up like, what Stack Overflow's traffic has looked like over the last 2 years. It's probably
it's really dipped
like that.
From what I understand. And as a developer, we're building systems that use AI, and we're building our own product called DevReady.ai, which helps you like plan software with AI assistance. But what I found is when I'm trying to solve some of these technical problems, so we started with I started the platform myself, like on the couch at night, and this is before the AI coding things were around. So in early 2023 on the couch at night, trying to figure out how the hell do I even do something with some of these AI things? Right at the start, there were Stack Overflow posts. And then I just started noticing that I couldn't find information about what I was trying to do anymore because people weren't posting there. They're just asking the ChatGPT the question, getting an answer, and people stop posting the actual questions. So you lose the information as well.
And we're gonna, I don't know if this is gonna happen, but like, I mean, to that effect, right? Like, in a couple years, it's like, is there just going to be like a knowledge cutoff of like,
Oh,
you know,
it's going to be interesting.
there's people stopped posting things on Stack Overflow, so AI couldn't be trained on what was out there. So then AI doesn't even know how to do the things, and then we gotta.
It's going to be interesting because that's something I've noticed. It's then like on OpenAI. So if you go to their forums, that's where people are posting questions about how to do things with OpenAI.
Oh, interesting.
But not as much on Stack Overflow. So it's shifted there a little bit. Reddit still has a lot of discussion from what I've seen, but there is definitely less around because I think there's less people trying to do things that you can't, where the information is not as accessible. So beforehand, you had to go to Stack Overflow and post. You had to formulate your question properly, otherwise people wouldn't answer it. People would harass you if you didn't write it the right way and ask for things, not just do this for me. But now it's ChatGPT. I've got this error. You don't even paste any context, no information. It's just an error. And then what's the problem? It goes and burns 50 trees and a couple liters of water through a server to figure out, oh, you forgot to put a semicolon. Like, it's very interesting how it's doing it, but there is going to be a knowledge gap, I think.
Yeah. That'll be really interesting to see as time goes on, right? Does that, how does that get accounted for? Because like the docs are often not super helpful either. No, like when I
when
did
they
this
first start.
Well, even now, I would, or when I was building this app, I built it in Django, and I'd go into the Django docs, and I'd be like, this is so convoluted, and so like you go to Stack Overflow, and somebody like explains what you actually want to do, and then you're like, okay, fine, but like, so I don't know. It'll be interesting times.
It's going to be very interesting. I think they've already consumed as much data as they could. So I remember making a video a couple of years ago, which is in the last 2 years, 98% of the world's data was created. So every 2-year period, 98% of all the data we've ever created has just been created.
Really?
Yeah, so the amount of data is just exponentially growing. But with that knowledge gap, what you're going to end up going into is like the synthetic data. So the AIs are trained on as much as possible that they can get access to. And then it's going to start going to what they get put in as chat responses, and then people giving the thumbs up. Like that's an indicator. I don't know if people know that though. When you give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to a ChatGPT response, you're indicating that that's a good training material. That's a good response to that query. So then now they've got a positive signal for the training data set. That's why they do that. But then you don't have that human data anymore. You're only going to have all AI assisted data. And then people are worried about like, what's the feedback loop going to look like when it's synthetic data, training synthetic data?
If 98% of the content going forward is, or if the next 2 years of content is going to be the next 98%, you're going to be, how much of that 98% was AI generated? So again, it's just AI on AI on AI. It's turtles all the way down.
Yeah, it might not be 90. It might be like 99.99% or something is AI of all the data is generated because it's so much easier to create content now.
Yeah.
It's an interesting space. How are you finding like the security aspect of like news or issues and things that are coming up? Is there still an active community that's sharing, or is everyone like guarding this to themselves and going to their chatbots and figuring stuff out?
In terms of like AI itself,
like security news, or just in general, like with the development, I'm seeing not as much being posted on Stack Overflow. Is there like an equivalent in the security space?
I don't think so. Now I could be wrong. Because I mean the main repository for like security issues is like CVEs. So like I feel like CVEs, the number of CVEs continues to increase, right? So that's not really something that people are like hoarding, as it were. So yeah, I mean I think it still remains fairly sort of transparent in terms of like, here's a vulnerability, everybody patch your shit.
Yeah, I think you're probably in a unique space though then, because there's a bit of altruism in what you do where you want to help people be protected and secure. So in the security space, unless you're the black hat hackers, like if you're a white hat hacker, like you in the crowd that you've built to support your business, you want to share this information to help secure everyone. Where developers and startups are very secretive. Especially the like startups, they're like, I need to protect my idea, so I don't want to tell you too much about what I'm trying to do, but here's an error. So I think it's a very different mindset. You're trying to do something for the greater good, where a startup is how can I make the most money from this and protect my idea so no one steals it?
Yeah, and there are still people like so as you like find out novel vulnerability classes, I guess you do kind of like, you don't necessarily publish those, but sometimes you do, I guess. So so if I'm like a bug bounty hunter and I found something that I don't think other people have found, I'm not going to go write a blog post about it. I'm going to go like scan the entire internet for it and then report it to everybody. And then, 6 months later, I write a blog post about it.
Yeah, try and get as much of the bounty funds as possible from all those different organizations.
Yeah. But you still have like people that do like 0-day research all the time that are just reporting vulnerabilities. And a lot of that's for like PR reasons or just, they're just trying to secure the internet. So
it's also probably you don't want to report on those immediately either, because now you're just alerting all the bad actors. Here's a new open door for you. Feel free to take what you want.
Well, and when those get published, that's usually after like a period where like they've already been patched. So by the time like a disclosure comes out, it's like, hey, update to the latest version, or we just pushed the latest version like 2 weeks ago. You should all be updated, but if you aren't, here's how you do it. By the way, there were vulnerabilities.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what you would expect.
Yeah, something to that effect. Yeah.
So we mentioned DarkHorse and what you're doing a few times, but we haven't really explained it in probably detail. If you want to just let everyone know in summary, like what DarkHorse does for people and how you've structured the business.
One of the most effective ways to make sure that you don't get hacked is to identify those vulnerabilities before bad actors do, so that you can remediate those vulnerabilities. So you want to hack yourself first, and that's most commonly done through something called penetration testing. But you can do it through scanning, vulnerability assessments, red teaming, bug bounties, a whole bunch of different things. So, but existing solutions in the market are slow. They take a lot of time and effort, and then they're expensive. And so what we've done with DarkHorse is, and when I say we, it's me, but we sounds more interesting. So what we've done is build a platform that kind of whose goal is to make it easy. So it's say you want to run a pen test and you're, a 2-person team, right? You just built a web app or something like that. But you're like, okay, I should probably secure this thing. You may not know how to secure it, and like going through the process of getting a pen test could be like a little onerous or cumbersome. So when you come to the DarkHorse platform, it'll just guide you through the process. So just, it'll ask you 10, 15 questions, something like that. And you based on what you input, it'll be able to tell you, okay, like here's the price and here's why we recommend this solution. And sometimes it won't even recommend a pen test, right? So like if you're not doing it for like compliance reasons and you've never done any security testing before, let's actually maybe start with something a little less involved than a pen test, right? Because we can pick up some low-hanging fruit before we go to something more advanced. So the platform is just designed to do that. It makes it easy, so you can set it up in minutes, get started really quickly. You get results in real time. And as a function of that, we don't have 9 layers of different people touching every single account and doing all this extra extraneous nonsense. It's very streamlined. And so as a function of that, there's less cost on our end, which means that we can offer it for significantly cheaper than anything else you're going to find on the market. So it's going to be faster, it's going to be easier, and it's going to be more affordable. And so that's the whole premise of DarkHorse, is just putting those solutions out there and making it, again, easier and more affordable and more accessible for organizations to have access to these solutions. So that's what we're doing.
And that cost is generally and that's good to know, because that cost is the biggest barrier generally for people to undertake security issues, and a lot of inexperienced developers don't even think about it. Over time, you build up, like you said, that knowledge base in the back of your head and these processes of things to commonly check. But it's a cost issue generally, I found. We suggest, a pen test going to cost you 20 grand starting at generally what we've experienced. And I know last time we chatted, you mentioned that, and you're like, yeah, it's significantly cheaper than that. So there's less barrier to entry for that sort of service, which means you're going to be better protected. And with the amount of probably systems that are coming out, there's a lot more vulnerabilities that come out. There's a lot more things that are affected by those issues. So having the security first mindset is going to make a huge difference to your business and protecting the data.
And it also makes it easier too, because again, if you're just a developer, you don't if you don't know security, right, and you don't know, like it can feel like a little overwhelming. It's also kind of, in my view, overdue. Right? You can buy a car from your couch, right? You can just be like, I just want, like, why is it that like pen testing requires like 7 meetings and a giant SOW and like all this other stuff? Like it's come on, let's not make it more complicated than it has to be. And obviously there's reasons for the complicated in certain contexts, but I think that a lot of it just has to do with, well, we've been doing it this way for the last 30 years, and so we're just going to keep doing it this way, and it just doesn't make any sense anymore.
Most people aren't building banking systems to require that amount of effort. It's generally the same sort of issues, and the tests are run mostly automated from my understanding, so there's a lot of the same kind of things that you're looking for, and then you're not going to check compliance internally on the organization versus the system. It's more just, do these common vulnerabilities exist, and go through and understand that checklist.
Yeah. And again, it can even, what DarkHorse provides, it can actually, it can be used for PCI or a SOC 2 or other compliance requirements. Which is, security is like this, I was talking to somebody earlier today about it, and like security is this weird, still Wild West area where like it's completely unregulated. Like I don't know if people like know this, but like there's like some loose definitions around like what is a pen test, right? Like there's this it's like the PTES has like 7 steps, and it's like you have like enumeration, and you have like exploitation, and you have like discovery, anyways, but like it's just these like very basic steps that like you could you could do that with a scanner and say, oh, we've accomplished this, we've covered that objective. So like there's very little regulation in terms of like what one person calls a penetration test, could vary wildly different, or be pretty different from like what other people deliver. So it's just a very interesting world.
Yeah, and then having sort of that crowd support, it's sort of self-validating that the right things are getting tested in your model.
Yeah, specifically in the way that DarkHorse approaches it. I have a pretty, I don't want to call it dogmatic, but dogmatic view that like, I've talked to some people who are like, oh yeah, like, we'll run like a port scan and that'll be our pen test. And I'm like, that's not a pen test, man. But like in their eyes, they like did some security testing, and they like enumerated the assets, and they checked for, and I'm just like, that doesn't count. And so with DarkHorse, we, one of the cool things that I think is actually pretty fun about the platform is, and I don't know if anybody else that does this, where we took the entire methodology. So like if you're testing a web app, we have the OWASP testing guide in the platform. And so the tester goes through and checks each box. And so you can see their percentage of completion in real time, as far as like, here's all the boxes they've checked. And you can see, oh, they've tested like authentication or whatever along the way. And so, but there's a lot of rigor, at least as far as I'm concerned, in terms of what I am willing to stand behind as a penetration test. I want to have a lot of rigor around following a comprehensive methodology, even if that technically costs more than if I just had somebody run a port scan. It's the right way to approach and deliver a penetration test, in my view.
And that's good that you've got that vision and that like standard that you're upholding, because then that carries over to the clients and provides more credibility and security. So if anyone out there listening wants to find out more about DarkHorse or reach out to yourself, Grant, how can they do that?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Name is Grant McCracken. There is a anthropologist, I think, also named Grant McCracken. I'm not him. So just make sure you're picking the right one. And then grant@darkhorse.sh. If you want to email me, or, I don't know, add me to some spam. That's my email.
We'll add all that to the show notes so everyone can get them. Once again, thank you for joining me in an episode of the DevReady Podcast. It's been a great chat.
Cool. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed this. Hopefully I haven't been too useless. And
No, it's been a good chat. I think there's plenty there to take out for someone who's interested in security or finding a more effective way to actually get their software tested and have that peace of mind.
Perfect. Cool. Glad to be of use.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.